Hi and welcome to this week's project. This week's project I'm going to be doing another review, and it's for the Solimould, but it's with the tubing bungs that they kindly sent me through to go into this Solimould. First off, they look nice and solid. They fit lovely into the channels. You need a good push to get them down in there, but that's what you want to stop the resin flowing out. Now the way you use these bungs is down the centre of this mould, because it's got the bungs you can remove after to make it easier for demoulding. They do different sizes so they can fit different tubes into. And today I thought I would do something a little bit different that I haven't shown you already. Now this technique is certainly not invented by me. There's lots of people that have done this before. It's Brian Bloom that I first seen doing this technique. He had a video on Facebook. Brian Bloom, if you don't know, he is the chappie that owns Caster's Choice, the pigment powders that I use in all my blanks. And today we're going to be doing a blank like this pen here, and we're just going to be using, one's just going to be a plain tube, the other one's going to be a part of a aluminium honeycomb blank, which I've pre-drilled and glued onto this tube here, so that you sort of get this type of effect, but it will be on the ends. I'm using aluminium tape here, very cheap. I bought it in big rolls, it was all I could get at the time, and the copper tape, which comes in different thicknesses. So I'll put links to all this stuff below. To finish them, I shall be using the ebony rub and buff. This is like a little paste, and that just gives it a little bit of an old rustic look. I think I used a little bit on that one, but not much. They go well, really well, these blanks, with the some of the Aries kits out there. This is the brushed copper one, but they also do other similar styles to that. They tend to go really well with those. So what I did is I cut up some of the aluminium and some of the copper strips, and I basically used, like, the corner at the end of this little tool here gives you just a little different texture on there, so I used some of that. Then I used a couple of these pointy little tools, and I just basically scraped them different diagonals, cut them off into lots of little sections just to prepare, so I'm not so long here with you, and you get this type of thing. So just very simple, pretty rough. I actually use a pen to do like rivet marks around the edges, but I'm sure there's other different things that you can use, pointy tools, and it's just to make some scoring marks in it. You don't want to go all the way through, but just to mark it. Looks good when you put the rubbing buff on at the end, so we shall show you that. So I'm going to get cracking at this. We shall just take a couple of bits of aluminium, and the tape comes off the back, pretty straightforward there. And then you want to get it as close to that end to cover the brass look as possible. Oh, I should have scuffed this. Actually. Okay, that's me back, and I've scuffed them up. Ready, so we'll get these on now. It's pretty straightforward, just push it into place, make sure your tube's covered, wipe down, and I just very much go random. The fiddliest bit is taking the tape off the back. I find overlapping them's fine, so wouldn't worry about doing that. So you sort of get that. Look, the main thing you got to do is make sure that they're pressed right down onto the tubes. If not, the resin will seep in underneath. Constantly going back over just to check. Now I've found with these you don't have to be too fussy. It doesn't matter about all the rubbing marks, all those look good when this buffing compound goes on. Okay, so that's the first of the tubes done. So just keep going back over it because it has an incline to peel back up these bits or show little gaps. So just keep rubbing it over and making sure it's stuck in place. Oh, we'll go on to the next one now. So the next one's this one, and it's basically just covering the two ends. So once again I'll just go very random as well over it. I'll put this on a little bit of faster speed just so that we can get on to the next bit. Okay, that's them all done. Just trying to make sure that I've got all that bits flattened before I use the rubbing compound now, this rub and buff. So with this I'm just going to put a little bit on a cloth and give it a rub over everywhere. I think I went far too crazy with that, but we're going to rub most of it back off, so I'm not too worried. So I just took a bit of that off there, get a bit of chance to dry. Making sure I've got none on that resin. I'll probably, once this has dried and I've given it a little buff up, I'll probably clean the resin off before I cast it. So the next bit I'll come back at is when I've got them into the moulds ready to pour. All I'm going to do now is basically give those a little buff after, once they've dried. Okay, so I've had to sand down that wee block to get it all in there. But that's it in with the bungs in place now. So all I'm going to do is add a little bit of resin into there to fill these channels, and we'll see how things go. I'm using the amazing clear cast for this. And I shall be putting it in the pressure pot after this, to make sure that we have as few bubbles as possible. Okay, so I'll come back when I'm going to demould them. Okay, it's actually a couple of days later since I recorded the last bit, but that makes no difference to you. So I took the small bungs from the bottom out, and I did give it a bang with a hammer, and this is the first one. Really pleased, that one worked out absolutely perfect actually. And this one here I had a problem with. It was my problem. Let me pull that out. I didn't push the bung to the bottom, if you can see there. So some resin did leak into there. There is enough. I did top it up a little bit and put it back in the chamber, but there is plenty for me to turn. The issue being, right, that's that. There's a tad little bit of resin on the inside there. But nothing that we can't drill out, but that was all my own stupid fault. So, both worked out perfect though. The next video really will be turning them down. So I'll make a pen from one of them. This one here, because it had this block in it, it did cause extra issues for me. But that's because not often do you actually cast like that. I mean, I really probably could have put this on the lathe, turned it down to round and then cast it. Would have probably been easier and finished a lot better, but testing stuff out. As you can see in there, the buff on it gives it just an aged look as well on that one. But that's the two blanks. These worked absolutely brilliant. Oh, I cut myself already. Back with the plaster. It's hardly a cut really, but still, it was breaking that. But yeah, bungs work brilliant. They do fit in there really tight. With these moulds, you do need to use mould release. They do fit down into that channels absolutely perfect. And as I say, that was a user error, but I think the blank appears to be okay. So I think it will probably be all right. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So this was just a review for the new tubing bungs for the Solimoulds, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.